Hello everybody, this is Wave 3 meteorologist Brian Good. Going to get right into the video blog here because I want to take a moment to really explain what happened with this storm as it came to the area. Very interesting dynamic storm. If you remember the video blog I put up last Thursday, our biggest concern we had, and I repeatedly said this, was the idea that if sleet got involved, that would cut down on a lot of the issues we'd have. The warm air aloft is always key in a scenario like this. It always makes us nervous as forecasters. And especially in Kentuckiana, when we get a south wind involved into the entire mix, it can go either way. Sometimes you can get a major ice storm. Sometimes you go all rain. And like I saw like in 1994, sometimes you can go all the way to all snow and comes down very hard. So all these scenarios can happen in the models. You know, the best data we got, but they're not the greatest. So we have to look at them. And when we have a lot of them saying the same thing, that's something to be taken into consideration. So you probably know a similar forecast between all the meteorologists around the area, and that was because the data was screaming the idea the potential was there that if this goes from freezing rain to sleet to all snow, it'll come down hard, and that's something we cannot take a risk on, and that it could happen, because if it does, it certainly could cause some major problems. So let me explain a little more behind the science of what happened here, because I think it's important everybody understand. First off, right now things are quiet, snow's out of here. The clouds are broken up, the sun's out, the roads are beginning to improve, at least the main roads. The side roads are still a mess out there, so use caution. 22, the current temperature outside, teens elsewhere, especially where the clouds have yet to really clear out in time. That's mainly in our southeast corner of the viewing area. We'll top it around 25, it looks like, later on for today. So here is the front. I drew this last Thursday, I believe it was, showing how the front was moving through. And when you get a cold front with very warm air that moves in over lofts, that is the big question, is how much that warm air is going to surge northbound and how much of it is going to be left when the colder air moves in underneath it. And a lot of the data we had said that the potential is there for the warm air to be thick enough along the front across areas of central Kentucky for an icing event. That's why we went with that idea. We saw enough data showing that this portion of the warm air would erode away. That would allow for heavy snow to develop somewhere very close to I-64. What ended up happening is a lot of this warmer air eroded away enough to prevent freezing rain, but just enough to leave the sleet into the forecast. But the profiles did line up to where we had snow, sleet, and freezing rain, but it was just much further to the south that was first indicated. Let me show you a different view of this. We'll tilt it sideways. This may help to illustrate. Here's typical atmosphere. Same thing. Here is the cold air at play. Here is the warm front that is over the area, pushing that warmer air overhead, and you got the cold air that kind of cuts in underneath it all. This was a scenario where we're expecting the warmer air to kind of erode away up in this region here to allow for a more below 32 zone for snow to fall across central Kentucky and more the mix further to the south. Because if you're all 32, up and down the atmosphere, it's all snow. But it's when you get that warmer layer that does come into play, that's when you got to worry about the potential for sleet and then, of course, freeze and rain. And we were able to remove this layer, which was good, because if we did not remove that much warm air in the atmosphere yesterday or last night, we would have had a lot of freeze and rain come through the area, and that was our big concern we had for power outages by all means. But we were able to erode away a good chunk of this warmer air and got more of a profile that fit like this, where we had some warmer air aloft, but enough cold air to freeze the raindrops back into ice pellets or sleet, and that was the scenario. The data last night as it went on was saying that this warm air section would erode away rapidly and we would go into an all snow scenario. So that's why we put higher totals off to the south. That eventually did happen, but it took a lot longer for it to happen than what was expected. So instead, we got stuck in this profile across most of central and southern Kentucky, which was sleet, and it came down hard for quite some time. So you can see it's a very complicated setup when you're dealing with different temperatures and different layers. And if the models are right, it's great. But if they're off by just one little bit, you get a completely different type of storm. There's a huge difference between an ice storm, a sleet storm, and a snowstorm. For one, with freeze and rain, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. We were having 1 inch of liquid come through Kentucky last night, more than 1 inch, in fact. So if it's 1-to-1 ratio with 1 inch of liquid, that means if you get all freeze and rain, it's 1 inch of freeze and rain. That is severely damaging. If you get snow, all snow, it is a 10-to-1 ratio. But last night, because it was getting so cold, we were actually 15-to-1 ratio. So 1 inch of liquid could actually equal more than 10 inches of snow. Sleet, on the other hand, is more of a 2-to-1 ratio. It eats up a lot of the moisture in those ice pellets. So while it could be very heavy sleet, 1 inch of liquid would only give you maybe a couple of inches of sleet in many cases. So the sleet is what robbed most of the snow lovers' excitement out of the system by all means, because it killed the ratios that you would get if you had snow. But it did prevent, at least, the bad news, and that was it did prevent the idea of freezing rain coming through the area. So there is a saving grace or silver lining, how you want to look at it, out of this entire storm. So it was a bust when it comes to the sleet issue, and I'll admit that. I was hesitant on it. We discussed it many, many times. But when all the data kept saying that warmer air was going to roll away, we just could not ignore that, and we didn't want to adjust too much based on that. It's a tough forecast. Every one of them this season have been tough. And trust me, we don't take it heart more than anybody as us, because our own families are here. I've had to talk to my own mother, in fact, and she was preparing for the freezing rain side of things, so she got the generator ready and everything. So we care about our family, care about our friends, we care about you guys. So we'll make sure we try to give you the most accurate info. I appreciate the comments. The negative ones, though, you know what? We love constructive criticism, but just avoid the foul language part. That part is not fun. Anyway, okay, here's the latest on the temperatures. Looking ahead, we're going to get above freezing for a few hours tomorrow. Better chance as we head toward the weekend. Next week, we could hit 60 Monday or Tuesday. I would enjoy that because, yeah, there are signs of colder air moving back in around the 13th of March. I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want to even bring it up anymore. I'm tired of it, personally. And I'm a big snow lover, folks. You know that. I'm ready for spring. It's March now. It's time to get on with March. So I hope that makes sense. It explains a little bit. I'm not trying to make excuses or anything like that. I'm not trying to do that at all. I just want to make sure you guys understand what we were looking at and how things evolved. And a lot of you are waking up or woke up this morning thinking, where is my 10 inches of snow? This is the reason why it happened. And we were up all night last night monitoring and trying to fine-tune and keep up with it. And these storms are very, very difficult. But at least everybody's okay. That's important, safe. And hopefully everybody enjoyed a day off from work and school there, although I'm sure the kids are getting over that now. They're ready to get on with summer break before long. Okay, that's enough ranting for now. Thanks for watching. We'll have much more on the snow and amounts and your pictures as well of all this coming up today beginning at 5 o'clock. Thanks for watching.